Welcome to Ecclesia Principles, a biblical strategy for believers to engage in God's design for government with Ray Eppard.
Glad to join you again today. Our text is 1 Corinthians 10:11, which says, "Now all these things," talking about the stories of the Old Testament, "happened to them as examples, and they were written for our admonition, upon whom the ends of the ages have come." Today I want to talk about Ezra. And this is probably going to be different than anything you've ever heard about Ezra. Now, with this, they were written for our examples. We go for the deep meaning. Let's go just for the surface right now. Let's go for the obvious truths that are staring us in the face so that we don't miss the forest for the trees. Now, with this, so often, well, let me start it out this way. The story of the book of Ezra is a story of failure. Let me say that again. Every time I have shared this with a group of people, I have had people look at me like I had three heads. The book of Ezra is a story about God creating an opportunity, and that opportunity not being capitalized on, and it winding up in a failure. Now, God used Ezra. We start out, we think everything is supposed to be an example of good. Sometimes you need examples of what's bad. You need to be able to see how not to do something. You see, if you look at the story of Nehemiah chapter 1, there were people that came back from Jerusalem, and Nehemiah asked them, "How are things?" And they told him how bad things were in Israel. Here, Ezra had been sent by the king. God opened the door for Ezra and that group of people to return back. And they went through things. The book of Ezra tells us the different things that happened. But in the end result of their work caused Nehemiah to cry. You see, here's part of the problem. Ezra, when God opened the door to send him back to Jerusalem, what they started doing was reinstituting the worship in the temple. Everything was torn down, but they cleaned it up, and then they started doing those things. See, one of the big problems today, every Christian just wants to do the spiritual stuff. I want to pray. I want to preach the gospel. I want to do those things. I don't want to do these other things. But you see, that approach is what caused Ezra to fail. That's why Nehemiah, when he heard about the fruit of Ezra's work, he cried. And then God sent Nehemiah to rebuild the walls. And if you look at it, Nehemiah's approach was the exact opposite of Ezra's. Ezra was approaching everything, we got to do the spiritual piece here. Well, you do have to do that. But Nehemiah went into rebuilding the walls. Nehemiah went into doing more practical things, and then at the end, they were able to reinstitute the worship. And then it lasted. It lasted at that point. Contrast. Read Ezra. Read Nehemiah. See which one worked. And which one do we talk about? We talk about Nehemiah a whole lot more than we do Ezra. Why? Nehemiah succeeded. Nehemiah got the job done. Ezra went about it the wrong way. We need to learn from those type of examples too. God bless you.
Follow us on YouTube and Facebook on our Ray Eppard pages. This program was brought to you by Victory Worship Center and World Outreach. Services Sunday 9 o'clock and 11 o'clock, 200 Hammond Lane, Stanton, Virginia.